Hello and welcome to this, another episode of Frame and Reference. I'm your host, Kenny McMillan, and you're listening to episode 161 with Sean Dahlberg, DP of Hellhole. Enjoy. On like 20 minutes into a conversation and been like, oops,
I forgot to hit the button.
Yeah. Dude,
happens on set sometimes too, unfortunately.
Dog, I'll see it. I'll see that it says record, and I'm still like, I'll go check something else, and then I like look back and I'm like, oh, fuck. No, okay. Like, I don't know why I think it's just going to magically turn on. It has never magically turned off. Like,
yeah, 100%.
The battery might die, but
Exactly.
you'll notice that first.
Well, to do you one better, the last shoot I did, it was just a small commercial shoot, but we were shooting on film, and my first AC hit run by accident, and half the roll just
like no one was paying attention. It was just running over there.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And I like, you know, if there was a situation to get burned while shooting on film, like this was the one job. It was pretty small. People were pretty cool. Everyone can give an extra day. And I also had extra film stock in my fridge that I was like.
Was it like a 400 footer?
Yeah, just a 400 footer.
Okay.
So 200 feet burned. But like I have, knock on wood, never been like burned on a film shoot like with stock before. And that was the one. So that was like the hit the record button on steroids. But anyway,
I don't know if this is one better. That's pretty rough just because you can, it's film. It's expensive. You don't get it back.
The money going away.
Yeah. I just did a corporate gig a few weeks ago, and I've done 10 of these videos with this client. And every time we do one, I try to make note of where I can like slim things down and, make it easier, because it literally is just me and the guy.
Yep.
And I've been like, hey man, like I'm willing to take a bite on these rentals, but I can bring like another person, a gaffer, AC, someone. And he goes, no, I think I like it just us, because we're interviewing like lawyers, they're not, whoever, real estate people, they're not camera ready or anything. So I think having less people involved so I get to the shoot and I can't sleep before a shoot.
Same.
And so I spent the whole night like prepping the new Pelican case. I get there, set up, and I have a C70 and a C500 Mark II, and I didn't bring the power cable for the C70.
Okay.
And 9 times out of 10, not even 9, 10 times out of 10, I bring like extra batteries, backups for backups, everything. Yep. This time I was like, it's literally never gone wrong. What could go wrong? So C70, no power, used the client's iPhone.
To shoot as a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a new one. It wasn't a iPhone 15
Max or whatever.
It was like a 13 or a 14. So it's like regular. You could set it to 24.
Okay.
And then I just locked the exposure, and I didn't even have a tripod mount for it. So I set up that tripod that was for the C70 and just put my hands on it and just held it for 30 minutes. Yeah. And it's the best coloring exercise I've ever had to do.
Okay.
I got it pretty fucking close.
Yeah.
Not obviously like optically it's little, but I've found a good way to fake blur.
Okay.
It doesn't quite match because I was shooting full frame 1.8 on a 35,
Sure. Yep.
But the color I was able to basically get dead on. And then it's just like a texture things that like I had to really dive through. But like if once it's going by with like B-roll and stuff, you can kind of tell, but I guarantee you no one would think, oh, that's probably an iPhone.
I believe it. Are you grading yourself? Are you proficient in results? Yeah.
Once the pandemic hit, I had to pivot to a different job, so I just started hitting out all my friends up like, hey, do you need a colorist? And they're like, actually, yeah. And, learned a lot on those.
Always. Smart move.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Did you end up doing the same thing?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, no. What were you going to say?
I have my first shoot coming up on an iPhone actually next week. So I'm about to you
But on
know,
the new one?
yeah, on the
Oh,
new
okay.
one.
So you got log and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes. So it's like more of a camera. But I've avoided it as of so far. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
not great. The Black
yeah,
Magic Camera app is pretty neat.
that's what I've heard. I was talking to my first today, and he got me pretty excited about that app. I mean, as excited as one can be when your camera is gonna be, or your
Yeah.
camera gonna be your phone or a phone. But no, I'm excited. Like again, I love doing what I do because like every project just poses a new set of problems, and it gives me an excuse to learn. So
Right.
I love it. Even if I bitch about it once in a while, but
Yeah. Well, and I used to do uh a lot of photography on my phone, but I had that moment, those moment lenses, the little
yeah, this little
the
like screw on ones.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Whenever I start interviews, throw my phone away. But that they had this like 60 millimeter telephoto, and it was real fudgy around the edges.
Uh-huh.
And on my Pixel 3, it was a Pixel 3A actually.
Okay.
That combo was great. And then I'd, edit it in Visco, and it
Uh-huh.
just looked really, and on these newer phones, it's like, it doesn't, there's not the same amount of magic. It's funny how like precision seems to always be the enemy of art.
Yep. Yep. Like my girlfriend got a new 15 and she dropped it and it cracked the camera
Mm.
and she's all pissed off. And I'm like, you just added diffusion in front of your lens. This looks
Yeah.
great now. Like now it looks cool. Before it just
Yeah.
looks sterile and like it's very good. They're very good cameras. Too good.
Yeah. Did you always work with, did you go to film school? I was going to say, did you always work on film, or like how did you get kind of put into like Super 16 land?
So I did I went to film school for 4 years at a Pratt Institute and it was very like theory based art school and the sort of things we learned like they wanted to pump out like Stan Brakhage type
Right.
filmmakers. You have a 16 mil camera or a DSLR because those just came out at the time. Those were hot new
Yeah.
item. And you do your one man band weirdo little videos. There's no money to be made in that corner of our industry anymore. So didn't really learn much, but outside of school, one of my buddies who worked in documentary and documentary reality TV got the bump to DP and just hired me as an operator. I definitely had no reason to be hired as an operator. But it was a documentary TV show in Supermax prisons in New Mexico, and I just I kind of killed it. It was a 2 year run, and I was the only crew member that like lasted the 2 years. So like after that was done, I kind of got spit out, and I was like, okay, I'm an operator now for documentary and docu-reality type stuff. Did that for maybe 6-7 years pretty consistently. That's it. And a friend of mine was making their first feature film with a bit of budget, and saw some short film I did at Pratt, liked my work, and we started talking. Long story kind of short is I was vetting for this film with another DP who actually turned out to be a very close friend of mine now.
Oh,
But
cool.
they wanted to shoot on film, and I didn't lie. I was like, I've shot film in art school, but I know how to read false color and like histograms. I haven't exposed film stock in years. So lost the film. That broke my heart. I took all the money I've been making on all these documentaries and just bought a Aton XDR prod kit
Nice.
and learned. Just bought it to totally learn, and that opened up my world into narrative and commercial and music videos, that's more the lane that I think I thrive in and that excites me. So yeah, it was just born out of like I didn't get this this job that I really wanted. And I wanted to be able to call myself a DP. And I feel like anyone can learn how to understand what false color or what L zone or any sort of exposure tool
Shout out to Ed Lockman.
is telling you. And I just remember the first time I shot film, I was scared shitless. I called the lab every day. Is it ready? Is it good? Is it good? They were so mad at me, but I just felt so like proud of myself for just being courageous of like, all right, the meter says 2.8, the spot says, 4, like, and interpreting that in terms of how I want exposure to land rather than just painting by numbers. It felt more like an abstract oil painting than like, all right, here's my 1, here's my 2, here's my 3. That makes sense. Cool. And I'm so happy I did that because I love shooting on film. I'm much more confident shooting on film, especially with my lighting. And I love how a set is run on film. I also love shooting digitally. This is not going to be a knock on digital. Digital cameras are great. Use them all the time, but I definitely, I bought that camera to learn and I'm happy I did because it changed my brain and my outlook on the world, really.
Yeah. When I went to New York Film Academy before I went to college, and a buddy of mine, well, I haven't really spoke to him in forever, so maybe I shouldn't call him a buddy. An acquaintance of mine, dude named Todd Martin, was like in the class with me, and we all learned on 16 on those like Aries with the turret, the 3 lenses,
the 3 lens turret.
Yeah. And I think he did the smartest thing in the world, which is kind of what you're saying, which was I think he just didn't stop shooting film because this would have been 2008 or so.
Yep.
And 5D hadn't come out. And even if it did, no one was like taking it super seriously unless it was like Vincent Laforet or whoever.
Oh my God, I forgot about that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw him the other day at an event and I was like, oh shit, I remember you.
Yeah. Wow. I hope he's doing well.
I think he is. Yeah. He was surrounded by people who looked like they had money. So, they're still talking to him.
Great. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
But yeah, Todd, I often look at his Instagram and I am politely envious of the way, when you're sitting next to the same and you're both feel like that's my buddy. And then it's like, oh shit, he's shooting all the coolest stuff on 35 because he just didn't stop shooting. Like I don't know if someone was in his ear about it or if he was just a smart kid, but like being young prior to college, and he probably did this throughout college, and just going, I need to really sell this fact that I know how to shoot film and have films. And to be fair, his stuff did look better than most of ours at NIFA. But
I don't know Todd, but I follow him on Instagram.
Oh, do you really? Okay.
Yeah, his work's beautiful. But no, I mean that makes sense. He just had the foresight and could see where the curve was going. Because fast forward, that's 2008. Fast forward about a decade.
Yeah,
film is like hot again. But yeah, his work's beautiful. But I think that's the thing. If you build it, they will come. Just takes a long time to build it sometimes. But
does being an owner operator with the Aton matter? You think to not to your own personal work, but like just getting hired on? Do people go, oh great, you've got the whole package?
Definitely. Definitely, especially for starting out. Trying to push film onto projects. Like I definitely the first year or two. I'd get my day rate, but the camera package might bring it on for cheap,
Right.
Because I fucking hate saying this because you wouldn't put anyone in the position unless you trusted them, but because you're giving me a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a big thing. And I recently just got my package consigned with a rental house in New York, and it's working out okay, I think, because I've already established myself as a DP who has this camera. But it's definitely like older clients are coming back to me and they're like, "What do you mean I need to pay X amount now?"
Right.
Like, well, because they got to make their money now too. It's
Yeah.
not just in my closet collecting dust whenever I'm not using it.
Well,
So yeah,
and
it helped.
I assume too, like at that point, the client probably maybe gets irked a little, but it's like you can stick with me because I work well and my pedigree, or you can go find a new guy who bought one that
Sure.
might work out. Go for it, bud.
It could. It could. Yeah, it
But they
might.
won't.
To your point, usually at that point they're like, yeah, I mean, we're going to you because you're our person. So,
Yeah.
but fuck,
Yeah.
you know. But
I've that's actually one thing I noticed I have to tell a lot of like younger filmmakers is like if you're investing in gear, like charge the client for it.
yeah,
Like everything is obviously a calculated risk. Like you said, you hate to put people in the position of you're giving me a chance and all that shit, but it's not nickel and diming them to rent out your own gear. It's
absolutely not.
like it's par for the course. It makes total sense. Who else was going to buy that? Like
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and there's like a point where someone is buying a product and they know there needs to be a camera that needs to shoot it. They know what it costs. This isn't their first time.
yeah,
And so it is. It's mind-boggling when producers are asking for things on the cheap or for free. Unfortunately, for me, that was the path I had to take for a minute. But I mean, yeah, at this point, it's you make production pay for the box set they're building. I mean,
yeah,
and if they can't, then fucking build us another box. Like whether you're talking about crew rates, gear rates, like. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but like, especially this year, post, not even post, we're still kind of in all this, but like our industry trying to figure itself the fuck out.
yep,
Budgets are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The expectation of crew size, smaller, smaller, smaller. But the product they want is the same or better or a more polished product. And I can't, I like, I try my hardest not to be a no person,
right,
but I've been doing this long enough where I'm like, you just need X amount to do what your creative treatment is describing I need to do.
yeah.
And if I can't do it, we need to figure out what we can do because there are options. It might just not be what you thought you could do.
I'll give you. I'm literally actively one of the calls that I was rolling today was that exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a company that I love to death. I love the people who work there. They just don't do a lot of video. They mostly do photo. And so they're like, we want to do we want to do this for real. So I got a producer buddy on and we were like, what's your budget? And they went, well, we don't really have one. Just let us see what we got. And then he goes, okay. So it was like a 3-day shoot in the middle of nowhere. He puts together a budget. I think it was like 87.
Sure.
And they looked like we shot their dog in front of them.
Yes.
They pull me aside separate from the producer, like right after our call, and they go, dude, we have 30. And I was like, damn, okay, well, let me figure that out. We do some reconfiguring. Producer comes back with 38. Actually, it was 41 because we had to put up people in still for a 3-day shoot, right?
Yeah.
And then they go, no. We have 30 total. So you have 20. We need 10 to get from where we're going. The creative team needed to come from elsewhere and like set themselves up and stuff. And so it was like basically 20 for a 3-day shoot. And I was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. I literally just had this conversation today. I was like, and if they end up listening, I want them to know I love them. This is just a educational tale. I was like, we're going to do it your way. The way that you've always done your photo shoots and stuff. I'm going to pay me. I'm going to pay a friend or two. And we're just going to absolutely run and gun this. And they're like, well, what if I'm like, don't worry about that. You let me handle what I'm going to handle. You handle getting locations and people. We'll do the rest. Like just however you want to do it, make it a vacation. I don't care. I'll produce something for you.
Sure.
But
Sure.
10 grand a day is like, unfortunately, nothing.
No, I know. I know. It is unfortunately nothing. Do you're an owner op as well?
Yeah, I got a C500 and a C70 and assorted random things.
Dude, I tried to hate the C70 so much I can't.
I know.
It's great. It's great.
Great.
It's like it's great. Like I tried to hate them. They're really great.
Aside from the fact that the handle doesn't rotate, doesn't have SDI, and the little hinge is kind of bad, it's like
Yeah,
the image coming out of that thing is sick.
it's great.
NDs are snappy. Shoots
Yep.
raw now. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're
can't
cool.
complain.
Cool. They're cool little cameras. But yeah, man, I also see, I feel like these photo video hybrid shoots also are kind of difficult with budget always in my experience because they're just, I do a good amount of like small commercial work for companies that are primarily photo and they dabble in motion and they just come at it with a photo budget and photo is just so different than what we do. And I'm not trying to be on a high horse or
No, it's just actively different.
it's
It's
just
not
so,
even, it's not better. It's
yeah.
just way
No,
different.
what this
Like
one is
plumbing
not
and
better.
electricians, you can't do the same thing.
Yep, exactly. But that's my is my big issue is like when I give them my electric budget, that's always when they're like, what do you need?
Yeah.
Well, we need
Permits.
that's like
How many of these do we actually need? It's like, I didn't list them for fun.
yeah.
I don't get this money.
Yeah, exactly. They make it seem like you are getting that money sometimes, which is funny, but
I think the biggest issue that I've seen with the photo video hybrid things is scheduling. They don't realize how long it takes to set up not only one shot, but a collections of shots that tell a story. Whereas with photo, it doesn't matter. The context of where these models are is irrelevant. Make it as vibey as you want.
there you go. Yeah. As long as you bring a boom on set, you're cool. As long as you blast some music, it's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, I joke about it. I love all my photo video hybrid jobs I get.
I mean, like you said, they're all a learning thing and they're all like fun usually. Like, and especially with the ones that I've done recently, like I know their priority is not in video. So I just don't let myself get stressed out. It's like, I know they're like 90% of the work I do is not going to end up I mean, last time they just had me shoot everything vertically. They sent me out for 4 9-second reels.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, hell yeah, dog. Brought that C70 out, just got the clips. No one even knew I was there. It was like Danny DeVito in It's Always Sunny, just in and out and
in and out. No one knows. In and out. That's funny.
That's you mentioned that shooting film is like preferable to the way that you light, and I was wondering kind of what you meant by that, because I think that could be pretty instructive.
I find myself really enjoying every aspect of how I work when celluloid is how we're capturing. With lighting specifically, when I work, I love being a filmmaker at DP because you're working with a bunch of people. It's a collaborative effort. I like being able to talk to directors, to talk to actors, to be present in the space, to watch the light fall on a wall and just actually stand there and watch it. When I'm shooting on film, I feel like I do that. And when I feel like I'm satisfied with the feeling, the emotional reaction I'm having to the space, that's when I do my math and science of like the light meter to make sure, we have enough of a stop to shoot, or my ratios are making sense.
Right.
Where when I'm working digitally, I really find myself, unfortunately, really attached to the monitor, really attached to L zone. Like I'm just constantly flipping to like look to see where my grays, my oranges, my blues, whatever are. And I think my images and my lighting specifically suffers from that. Just because there's weird things in my head where like if I was by that window, even if I wanted it to feel dark and dingy, I might light to a middle gray or even a half stop over if they're my complexion, because in my brain I'm like, no, that's that's what it should be. That's what the sensor's gonna love. So
Right,
like, let
right.
me get there. Or when I'm shooting film, even if I'm like by the window, I want it dim and dark. Like I'll just shoot it a stop under key, two stops under key, whatever kind of iteration of dark you want. But I just find myself a lot more confident and also just present. And for me, I'm a much more emotional DP than a technical one. I
Sure, yeah.
really I rely on my technicians I hire, my first, my gaffer, my grip to really guide me into the tools and the tech that is needed to achieve what I want visually. But I really am like that, a dumb reactive DP, if you will. Like I like to sit back and react emotionally. And I feel like that's my job.
I have said on this podcast probably once an episode, enough that it could be on a t-shirt if anyone gave a shit. That emotionally correct often usually supersedes technically correct in most things when it comes to art. It does. Everyone always. I think in the terminally online world, people are very addicted to the idea of there being rules and a proper way to do things. And I think a lot of that just comes from inexperience. People aren't getting the reps in that they would like, or maybe used to be the case, or whatever. And so they just think like, if it's a math equation. If I do this, then it will be cinematic. Without realizing that. I remember one of the quotes that my directing teacher gave me that stuck with me forever is film is just making the audience feel what you want them to feel when you want them to feel it. And it's not often a dark means scary. It's like how is everything holistically presented to make you stop breathing? Is it holding on a shot? Maybe it is bright, but it's like the context of there's a lot. And emotionally correct always wins, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree with that 100%. And I think it is an experience that will make a DP believe that they need to do something a certain way. Because I know that's how I used to think. And then one day I watched Birth. And then one day I read about what Harris Savitas did on Birth. And that completely changed my mind about rules. And I was like, all right, everything I thought I knew was true is wrong. Like it's not paint by numbers. It's like Vasily Kandinsky. Like, anything is possible. You just need to hone your craft. You need to test. You need to understand what your tool is doing. And if you understand that, the world opens up, like I've had friends who shot movies that in 16,000 ISO, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, that to me is scary, but like they did it.
Yeah.
Harris Savitas on Birth. Film stock was 4 stops underexposed after the exposure and the bath. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But when you watch the movie, it feels different. So he did something. But yeah, point is like fuck rules, understand them. But once you understand them, throw them out.
Well, the phrase of like film is a visual language really didn't click with me until I realized how all encompassing that idea is, because it's like, once you know how to speak, in my case, English, right, you can know how to turn the phrase to make things funny, put words together that shouldn't be put together to elicit a response.
Sure.
Which you would not read, if you're a Japanese person trying to learn English, no one would give you like, Theo Vaughn's, transcripts. You'd be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Really over there. Yeah. But yeah, it is once you know the syntax, I suppose, of what you're doing, then you can break the rules. Are you still a meter person, I guess, then, even on digital? Or do you...
Unfortunately, I want to get away from it so bad, but I'm attached to it more than I would like to be.
The monitor.
Both the meter and the monitor.
Oh.
The meter, when I say I'm attached to the meter more than I'd like to be, I don't use the meter too much. Right. But there are times when I'm really nervous and I'm just spotting every little, like, what could be black, what could be, white. And I wish I could be removed from that more. The monitor is something when I'm shooting digital, I am unfortunately just like, and I'm really trying to break that habit. But
That is
something having that reference, I always just want to reference it.
wow. I mean, there is something to like exactly like you said. When I'm shooting digital, I actually have the meter and the false color. Just I like redundant. I was just talking to the guy right before you about this exact thing, but like I like redundant information. You know,
Sure.
like multiple sanity checks.
Yep.
Um,
Let you
and
sleep.
yeah, and it also just like maybe the monitor is. I mean, I got a pretty good eye at this point, but like maybe the monitor is wrong. You know, but the
I'm
numbers aren't.
always nervous about that, like calibration, monitors being wrong, especially now that we have these like high bright monitors. Like
Right.
the other day, I had my first job where in a long time where I had a proper Flanders.
Mm.
Oh, thank God I had my meter because I would have overlit the shit out of that entire job because it looked so dark. It looked so because I've been used to these ultra bright monitors that are also super color inaccurate to my eye.
Yeah.
Uh, where the Flanders to me, I mean, that thing is like color accurate. That I love that monitor. But the last job I had, I thought I mean, thank God I had these dummy checks because I would have overlit everything because it just
Yeah.
looked dark to me, to my eye on the monitor.
Well, and to your point about like having to light, like basically, I'm putting words in your mouth here, but like lighting skin at key because you know the sensor's going to like it.
Yeah.
That is one reason why I oftentimes ask, mostly because I work on low budget stuff, uh, to color it myself because I know what I can fix and what I can't fix in post, and I don't know if the low budget colorist is going to know. Yeah. Or
Yep.
if they've worked with Canon footage, you know, maybe they're only used to Sony and they're, you know, I'm like, just give it to me and I'll give you a deal.
I know the
Just
limitations of what I've shot.
yeah,
You know exactly. That's smart. You're also seeing your stuff front to back. Like I have been extremely disappointed at times, when the finished product comes out. I've also been surprised in great ways too, in positive ways.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I hear you. Understanding limitations of what you're shooting and then seeing it front to back. I mean, that's smart. Just
yeah.
smart to know that you're getting what you want to be getting visually.
Well, and the other thing I've done is like I've really built what I believe to be a pretty robust like node tree in Resolve. And
Okay.
so all of the non-textural stuff I just collapsed into one LUT, and that's
Okay.
on all my cameras now. So I know roughly what generally I do. And there's like a few versions of it, but
Do you use LUTs when you shoot? You use 3D
yeah,
LUTs?
you can just load them right into the camera, so it's not like a whole involved thing. And I have like a film look. I have an Alexa match that I built because originally, you know, everyone used the Canons to B cam for the Alexa. So I like just took the two of them and then matched them together. Made one of those. I made a. Now you're gonna love this. I made a. Technically, it's like I guess a 500T with a 2383, but I'm finding more and more that people are looking for the film look, and all they want is the confidence that when they click something, it maybe someone said that, oh yeah, that's what portrait is. Because none of these like dehancer and everything, they look great, but they keep telling you that they use all these film stocks, and I'm like, are they? And also,
Yeah.
who scanned it? You know, I shoot a lot of still photography film, you know, medium format. It's like every scanner's different, every developer's different. Like, there's no true film look. There are elements of film, but there's no like so.
Thank you for saying that. Because there are so many factors in the final image if you're shooting on film, whether it's still photography, motion photography. There's so many factors and so many ways that you can inflict your hand to create a look. Yeah. So like that's I mean, they're selling something, right? People need to sell something. All right.
Yeah.
That's where my brain goes. But who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, I built a film adjacent LUT. I don't know what it's matching, but it incluincludes
Does
the
it
like
feel filmic to you? Like If you side by side, have you ever done a side by side test?
Not on motion picture stock. I have on Portra. I actually, one of the LUTs is a Portra match.
Okay.
But again, it's like a match in what lighting condition and what, but I would like to do a side by side because I think a lot of it's sexual. I will say, like, people's obsession with halation is a cinestill problem that, like, nothing has that much halation. You have to
It,
try to fuck it up like that.
really happy you said that too. You're right. People are very obsessed with collation. And I became obsessed for a little bit too, because I was chasing this filmic look, and to me, I'm like, highlights are halated and shadows are crushed. Like add grain, film.
Yeah.
Um, and it's and I would create images that look like, when I see them, I'm like, oh, they're so heavy-handed. Like,
Right.
it doesn't look like film. It just looks like digital with like a Pro Mist like 2
Yeah.
camera lens. Um, but I've always I have a couple friends who've created LUTs that do feel pretty filmic to me, and they're gatekeeping.
Of course.
They haven't told me their secrets, but I have a friend or two who they've shot digitally, and it does honestly look pretty filmic. And they didn't do a film out or anything. It was proper digital workflow. But also Vision 3 is so good now. Like, anytime I have had producers like who I don't really know either even saying this should be my thing, but are like, we need to shoot 50D. Like, well, let's just get an Alexa then, because like,
Yeah.
it's so clean and 50D 35. Like, I guess there's, it's CP cleaner. I don't really shoot 50D because it's just really clean. I'll just shoot digital step. Like,
Right.
it's so, the point is film stock is so good that it's really hard to decipher sometimes.
I was interviewing Eigel Burld, who shot The Holdovers.
Okay.
And obviously that made a big splash because of how it looks.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that they tested all, 16, 35, every stock they could manage. And they realized that after they scanned it in, it still looked too clean. And they're like, if we're going to go through here and add grain and bloom and shake and all the shit, just shoot digital. And so they did. So everyone thought that was like shot on an old film stock. And it's, again, emotionally correct, beat technically correct. Actually shooting on film was the wrong choice to make it look like the memory of film, the emotional memory of film in the 70s.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you need to really like fuck film stock up nowadays to make it look like film. And when I say that, I mean things you would do as a DP. But like, if I want my stuff that I've shot on film to look like film, I underexpose my film stock like pretty hairy level. And luckily, I've had people like Harris Savitas and like Christopher Blauvelt, who have written extensively on like the toenail of film stock.
Right.
So it's given me confidence to be like, well, let's try it. They did it, and you find you're like, oh, that actually feels like film stock, like now, because I ruined it.
Yeah. There's a great quote from, I want to say it's Brian Eno, but you may have seen it, where he was like, everyone getting all misty-eyed over vinyl and cassette tapes and stuff. The same thing's going to happen with CDs. People's when we get past a certain technology, people only remember the artifacts of that technology, not what made it good. You see kids today, and I do mean like kids, like teenagers, really getting into the idea of using like Canon power shots or whatever, taking those to the parties, because they want that like millennial house party look, quote unquote.
Yep.
And I was just like, that's so fascinating. What they really want is not their phone, which I fully understand, and an on-camera flash.
That's it.
Other than that, like, what do you but it's the artifacts of the medium that make people think of the medium. Vision 3 is too clean. Vision 3 could be confused with really well-made Alexa stuff all the time, or even Red.
I agree. I totally agree. Um, yeah, no, I totally agree. That's like why for me, like when I do have these film jobs, I really try to paint a picture of like the process because the process is really important for me.
Yeah.
And I'm a true believer that the process is indicative of the project that you get. And I just try to stress that the process of shooting on film, for me, it just makes more sense. It's more of a community effort, more collaboration, less directors worrying about like art if it needs to be like that or like this or like this.
Right.
Here, they're
Everyone
like,
getting a monitor can be problematic sometimes.
yeah. Where I do like kind of being like in a very nice way, but yeah, take a seat, enjoy the movie. Let the profession, let like you hired me to like wag this meter around and make pretend I know what it's telling me. So
Right, right.
let's do it. And that's usually what happens. And it's like I fucking love that sort of collaboration so much.
100%.
And everyone's just super buttoned up on their toes and present. I think that's the most important for me. Everyone's present.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with anything. It's just easier to point to. But like, when you're finally on your first shoot where someone has that Alexa, or you're on a first shoot where there's a bunch of crew, some of them you don't know their names. Like it's always like you rise to the occasion a lot of times, I feel, is in creative fields. What was the reason for not shooting Hellhole on film? Was that just budgetary?
It didn't make sense at all.
Okay.
There was talks about it, but the directors, John Adams and Toby Poser, they come from a very DIY sort of punk mentality of filmmaking. They make movies with their family, like, and a couple key collaborators who live close by to them. And but they make these horror movies with very small crew and kind of would shoot them when it be Mac Gray day outside, so the light is beautifully diffused. Let's go out back in the woods and shoot a scene.
Right.
I didn't want to shoot on film because I wanted them to have the freedom to be able to make a movie in a way that they were used to.
Right.
Albeit, elevated visuals, a proper crew, but like in terms of like that DIY punk mentality that is really important to them, I didn't want them to feel like they lost it because I go, we only have 3 takes of everything. Oh, we rolled out in the middle of that. Like, I really felt like it was important to at least give them the ability to be very flexible and to be able to pivot at a moment's notice if that's what we needed to do. So, even all this romantic shit I just said about film, like I do love shooting digitally. And for me, it is a very project to project thing. And how I will dictate that is how I think the set needs to be run, at least from where I'm. And I think if we shot on film, I would have put them in a situation that they would have been incredibly uncomfortable with.
Sure. Because I was talking to Bob Yeoman, Wes Anderson's DP, and he was saying that like Wes really wants it to feel like a student film set. Like 5 people there. Obviously, they should film, but like just a handful of people there. Did they shoot film on that?
Asteroid City?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
they did. They did. Yeah.
I think he only shoots 35. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
35.
What threw me off was I was like, wait a minute. What was it with that Cineon scan? Was that digital? But that was just the grade. But yeah, it's definitely like you kind of, I think we all wish that like DPs were bigger rock stars than we were to a degree. Not truly, because no one wants the actual like attention, because fuck that. No one wants to be famous. But like, you wait for your name to come on through the credits. It's a little longer. You're like, that's a lot of producers. Come on, give me the. Yes. But at the end of the day, you are there to usher the director's vision through. And anything to make their job easier will make them like you more and hire you again. Not sitting there and going, that's not my vision.
Yeah, well, I also believe my job is to not do what I want to do. My job is to try to understand what they want to do visually and guide them the best that I can that way. And like, basically, they show me where the room is. I make sure the light's on in the room, and if the light gets turned off in the room, and they're like, "Where the fuck's the room?" I go, "Hey, the room's over there, and the light needs to be changed a little bit."
Right.
Like, that's how I truly believe. That's what I believe my job is, and I really, of course, I have my subjective feelings, and I have an artistic background, and I feel too much, right? I have opinions, but I always try before I give a thought or anything on set. I try to ask myself if it's in line with where the directors want this to go. And if it's not, I realize it's my own subjectivity, and I try to shut that voice up.
Right.
Because it's not my film. And I've definitely, when I first started out, like, would really fight for like a certain light quality or a certain thing that I thought visually we needed to do, where now I think the most important thing are actors, man. Like, I think what we connect with as an audience member is actors more so than like, is my key light a half stop too hot? Like I think if the performance is good, fucking whatever, you'll get lost in that performance. All that being said, I also know my job is to, invoke the correct visuals. So like, I want things to look great if they're supposed to.
That's
I want
production design's job.
Yeah. Which honestly, and I am saying this as a DP.
Yeah.
Fucking like 80% of my job is the production designer's job.
Yes.
If they're good, I can like sit back, put like one light through the window, and then everyone's like, "Whoa, Sean, you're incredible." I'm like, "Well, that person is." I just put a light there. We just put a light on it.
Yeah, the only other people, I think I've interviewed maybe like one or two directors. No, I know I have, but maybe three. But the only other people I interview on this podcast are production designers. I am going to have a colorist month, though. But production designers, like, make or break you as a DP, I feel.
100%. 100%. They can make your day, like, again, your day super easy, where all you have to do is either throw light on something or take light away, or they can make your world very difficult, where you're fighting colors and and I mean, and that would be ultimately, I think, my fault for not starting a conversation early enough, where we're put in a situation where I have like yellow walls if I don't want them. But yeah, no, if you have a great production designer and you're in communication with them and you show up and the set is how it should be, your work as a DP is pretty easy.
Well, and in the case of Hellhole, like, the location does a whole lot of heavy lifting. That's a very big set piecey kind of production value add, the big granary or whatever it is.
Yeah, that place was wild. That was like such a crazy location that we found, and the town it was in was, I've never been to a place that's like so forgotten in time.
Really?
Just, yeah, like, there's nothing out there except for this like 5-star hotel is out there, because I guess like during the summer it is a tourist destination. There's these famous pyramid mountains that have like supposedly aliens landed there. There's some like, in the town right next to the mountain, like invented the Dracula story. Like, it predates Dracula, and they still hang fucking garlic wreaths from the front door. So it's like, you go through these towns to get to set, and then you're at this like Yugo era mine that is like falling apart. But it was so cool to just like walk into those spaces and just react to those. And the energy of the town and the energy of those spaces within that town, like, really just kind of inspired all that we did. Really, visually, that is.
How were you handling? Because obviously you're saying you have to work pretty quick, and be open to movement. But how were you handling like lighting? Were you mostly as just like reflectors only, or a lot of neg, or were you even
No,
bothering?
John was very adamant that he did not want to use lights. I think because he was really used to never using lights for the films that they've made previously.
Yeah.
Uh, but again, they would wait. They would only shoot, to my knowledge, when it would be like a Matt Gray, God diffusion is in the sky kind of day, so it
Right.
looks pretty okay. Um, we were shooting in the winter in a mountain town, so we have 7 to 8 hours of daylight a day.
Right.
Getting 12-hour days. So, I had to convince him like I need to light. That being said, we can abide by certain rules. Like there's no lighting inside unless it's practical. All my lighting is outside pushing in, and we'll that's the way we'll kind of rock and roll. And so yeah, that's what we would essentially do is I would just push daylight through windows. It would fall, and that would be kind of it.
Right.
There were a couple shots where I was trying to sneak in some passive fill or some nag, and he didn't. It wasn't wanted, so it would immediately go away. But I would also work I would work with my gaffer Nicola, who I love so much. He's gaffed both features I've shot over there. Great guy. But we would kind of work on how we could possibly hide a light, or pull sneak one in on them.
There's fluorescence here? Yeah. No, those are the stairs.
Yeah. Pretty much. But yeah, so that was really interesting is how to kind of work within that sandbox. Just because the light went away real fast over there. And the weather was super fickle.
Mm.
Very warm daylight one day, and then it was just a dark, rainy day the next day, and then it's snowing, and then it wasn't. And so there was a lot of like, oh, well, this is happening. I guess let's go inside and see how we can be productive in this space until the outside's, ready for us to shoot again.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of working with the first AD and the directors on like how we do this dance.
Well, it absolutely fits the tone of that script. Like I wouldn't even, it's, I feel like it's more comedy than horror, but it's, the kind of, as you opening with like, they're more punk rock about it. I was like, that's honestly a perfect way to describe that film, just holistically.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there that feels like out of place. Like, oh, they, because it could feel student film or cheap, and it never does. It's like, that's the intent of this, is to be a little camp, a little fun, a little,
exactly.
Or,
exactly. Yeah.
The guy explodes with one bullet. It's great.
Yeah. It is 100% camp. Like it's camp. It's comedy. There's, moments of like creature feature horror, but like I don't think we set out to make like a scary movie where some of their previous movies, like Hellbender was a movie I watched that they made before I went out to shoot Hellhole, because I didn't know their body of work. That movie scared the shit out of me.
Oh, really?
Scary. Where this one was like more my speed, because it was I'm not the biggest horror fan. They scare me too much, to be honest.
Same.
It just scared me too much. I'm a boring guy. I like watching movies where it's two people talking at a table and the camera doesn't move for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, kind of the same. I do love a sci-fi film, though. Oh boy, and almost any even terrible sci-fi.
My partner and I actually just had like a 2-week stint where we watched every space movie like ever made, and that was brutally fun.
Yeah.
You're preparing for what's the new alien movie? Romulus?
Romulus. I just saw that. That shit's fun.
It was fun. Yeah,
Oh my god.
I liked it a lot.
People were
But
bitching about there's too much fan service. I'm like, oh, what? You're mad they made a movie you want to see? Shut up.
people love
Grow up.
complaining. People love complaining nowadays, man. Got
Also, that the guy who plays Andy, where the fuck did he come from?
I have no idea, dude. I have no idea. No
Half
idea.
half of his quote unquote dialogue is just him making faces, and you're like, I love this guy.
He was amazing, incredible. I couldn't take my eyes off.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. So I no, I don't hate. I'm not trying to dog on horror either. Like I do like horror. It's just again, I think the process is indicative of the product, and like we didn't have a scary time over there.
yeah,
We had like a campy, fun, fucking time where our two ringleaders were these like punk filmmakers, like, and it was also like so inspiring to watch Todd Masters and Trey Lindsay, our SFX supervisor and VFX supervisor, work. Like, because I don't come from a I
effects
haven't done a lot
background.
of projects that have had like SFX, VFX, other than atmosphere
Right.
things, rain and snow, whatever. Um, but not in terms of like a creature feature or like let's blow shit up or all way over my head. And it was really cool to see them work and for us to like find a practical solution to almost everything. That was cool to me.
Yeah,
That felt like making a movie in high school, I guess. In a
yeah.
way, it was
Well,
fun.
the other thing too that keeps it from looking cheap is the creature looks great.
It looks great. You
You
should have
know,
seen it in real life. It was incredible.
with the what?
You should have seen it in real life.
Oh, oh,
It was incredible. Um, we had two monsters. One like huge thing with like animatronic arms, and it would take like six operators to animate this puppet, and that we shot against greens. And that would be a different unit. Trey Lindsay, our VFX supervisor, actually DP'd those units while we would off be shooting main unit. And then we'd have like a small, it was still like 85, 90 pounds. It was heavy, but a small monster for like the in scene work that we could like throw on a person or like,
right.
and it was, I have to, I don't know. We would shoot stuff, and I would have no idea what it was going to be because I've never shot that kind of stuff. And I remember being very, very anxious and always kind of asking like Trey and Todd, like, wait, I can pan the camera, or like we were shooting on like ours, like the lens is flaring. Is that going to fuck the key up, or like,
Right.
or so easy to work with? It blew my mind. Like I didn't think I was giving them what they needed, but they'd be there like, yeah, pretty much do whatever you want. You
Yeah.
got it. It
Well,
was
and I'm sure they've dealt with worse than you guys, so they probably, are
yeah,
just like, yeah, you listen. We've put out every fire that can be invented, so you go for it.
especially Todd. I mean, that guy had war stories every production meeting. Like that guy's a legend. It was
Nice.
it was so cool to work with them and see that kind of
So,
all happen.
so something that actually this brings up as a thought is, like I said, I'm also not a horror person, but there does seem to be like horror. Obviously, I think it's statistically like one of the most watched
Right?
genre, like just straight up money making wise. Like everyone
Especially
loves. Yeah,
like A24's resurfaced and everything with horror. It's yeah.
yeah, and but it seems like no one is clamoring for an Avatar budget horror. Everyone really does enjoy the kind of more slashery 80s style, punk rock version. And I was wondering if working on this project kind of gave you any insight into the horror audience and like the things that they respond to and kind of like, because I'm not there.
I mean, definitely just because I I'm not really one of them. It's all so new to me. And John and Toby, they love horror. Trey is like a horror encyclopedia.
Mm.
The producers who are like my buddies I went to art school with, Justin Martell and Seeger Dixon, horror nerds. So it's been really cool to be introduced to this world of like, for lack of a better term, kind of schlocky, like
Right.
horror movies that like, I don't know. I don't know what what horror fans expect. Like,
They don't seem to expect an ending. Every horror film just kind of like the last person dies and then the camera pans back and it's credits and you're like, what?
that's what we did.
Yeah,
I know.
no,
Like,
everyone does it.
like, no. Yeah. So I don't know. Cause like I have no idea. Cause even when we screened it, we had a screening in New York and the reactions during certain parts of the movie were like really shocking to me. And then I would think a reaction would be something else and it wouldn't happen. And so I just, horror fans are incredible humans who confuse me a lot. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's just, I like pompous Criterion movies. So
Right.
like we're into
That's this whole shelf, baby. Both of these. Criterion and Arrow, baby.
Love both of them. But no, yeah, I don't know, man. Don't know.
It is a fun group to be around. It's like if you ever go to like metal shows, like those are always the more fun
Yep.
group to be around than and nice too.
They are.
You'd think it'd be the Swifties, but I probably shouldn't say this. I'll get the laser will. But those like massive Chapel Roan's experience of this, like there's a certain level of fame that like makes your fans insane, and
Yep.
I don't think there's a metal band alive that has fans that are that kooky.
No, you're right.
Well, I'm sure there is,
right.
but Guar maybe.
Sure. I mean, that's Guar. They got like dildos coming out of their foreheads or something.
Right.
They're on a whole other planet.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. But no, to your point, and that was what was really cool about the making of this movie is it was fun.
Yeah.
Like I love shooting narrative. I love shooting features. That's if I could do every project would be a feature, that would be my life. I love it. But and the movies I love are dramatic movies. Movies I would love to shoot are dramatic movies, but I have never had so much fun than I do on a horror movie set. It's just fun. The people are nice. There's very little of that like kind of attitude that you get a lot on film sets where
the pretense.
Exactly. We all think what we do is super important. And
Right.
and it is to a degree, but I'm not cutting open anyone's chest to like perform art surgery, right? That cliche. So let's all just have some fun. And I think because of the content, especially this movie, every day was so fun. I had so much fun with my crew every day. And like when we would wrap, I'd literally be waiting for like 4 a.m. to happen so I can get out of bed, have a coffee, and get back to work. Like it was so fun.
That's awesome, man. You love to hear that because I remember for when I moved back to LA after college, I was not in a good place in many ways, and I remember telling this producer that was like kind of helping me get on my feet. I was like, you know what? I'm just like ready to have fun again and like get to work on projects. And he's like, do not say that to anyone. And I was like, what? And he's like, no one, because I was 24 at the time or something like that. And he was like, no one wants some kid coming, out of town going like, I'm ready to have fun. What about you guys? He's like, that's not going to get you a job. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so it's nice when you do get to have fun,
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the way I like to run my crews is like we're here to do a job, and we're gonna do it well. But like there are times where we can kind of have a little bit of fun, and there are times where we need to be buttoned up and we need to go.
Well, sorry, I was just gonna say I feel like the fun having is more of like I liken it to caffeine. If you have too much caffeine, you get jittery. and that's visual. That's not good. We don't want that. But it's just like an emotional. It's just like a feeling,
Yeah,
right? It's like a casual buzz, not a drunk. You know,
exactly. Yep.
fun doesn't need to be external, but if you're excited to wake up because it's bringing you joy, I think that's the perfect level of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And you
this is
just
my fucking like this is neutral right here. I could be having a great time, but that's the you know
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I also feel like you get the best out of your collaborators when everyone's having fun,
yeah
when everyone feels, excuse me, good about what they're doing and how they're doing it,
yeah.
that's the best. It's the best. We
Well,
should get a project.
yeah, you can certainly feel the fun in the movie. I don't know if I told you, I literally like just watched it before I had a call. I had a different podcast right before you, and I watched his movie and your movie back to back. And I thought both of
Okay.
them were horror films, and then his was like kind of a normal thriller, and then yours was a comedy. And I was like, all right, well, I was prepared to be really bummed going into
Yeah.
these, but no, things are great.
Well,
Um,
I'm happy about that nice surprise. I would be feeling the same way if I knew I had to watch maybe two horror movies in an afternoon. My anxiety would peak. It would ruin
I
my.
There's a reason I put off watching them to now
Well, I'm happy
instead of last night.
No, we like, but I also think John and Toby were super inspired by these creature features that came out right after World War II, like
Yeah,
in
the
the
Hammer
50s.
stuff.
Yeah, and like what is it, like them? Like I think them with an exclamation
I
point.
have them. Or no, sorry, I have They Live. I have They Live. That's
Them
completely
though
different.
is a movie about the giant ants, right?
Oh,
Like in
oh,
New Mexico.
maybe.
I think it is. Anyway, but these creature features that there's a lot of discussion about the math and science behind what's happening,
Yes,
but
you are
not
correct.
necessarily it is them.
Yeah.
Yes, my brain works.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, not necessarily like an incredible amount of action. And I just think because of that, like, yeah, again, we made like a funny little creature feature that's like fun, and John and Toby got to make it the way they wanted to make it, and that's super important to me. If they're happy, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
I've done my job.
I do got to let you go because again, I'm just rolling fucking calls all day, but I did want to ask, did you have a thick ass whack of diffusion on everything, or was that just like atmosphere? Because especially at the beginning, I was like, this is the lens, something is happening.
A bit of both. More so I did have diffusion the entire shoot. I just and I wish I pulled it for a couple scenes.
Mm.
I was using black digital effects, which to me
Okay.
is like usually super light. I always have some some diffusion that I put in front of lenses when I shoot digital just to knock it down a bit.
Right.
Problem was with this one, because we were shooting in Serbia in the middle of nowhere, I had very little time to test, and the Leica R's that we had were the rehouse set, but it was kind of like a Skittles pack. Like everyone kind of had a bit of a different flavor.
Oh.
And I unfortunately didn't have the time to fully understand this via testing beforehand. So I forget what specific focal lengths, but there were two that were just like heavy as shit compared to the
Gotcha.
other in
I
terms of highlights.
Yeah, I didn't want to suggest it looked bad. I was just like, okay, there's got to be a reason. This is
No,
it's up there,
but also our one of our SFX dude, he loved the why am I drawing a blank? Not the fogger, but like the smoker.
The haze machine, yeah.
That hazer, yeah, thank you. He loved the haze, and I don't know. So there was like
Again, it fits the tone.
when I would tell him to cut the haze, though, it was like he would joke with me. He'd be like, "Really, cut it?" And you'd keep going, and I'd be like, well, I guess we're just gonna keep hazing."
Yeah.
But no, yeah, we wanted it to be hazy, though, But yeah, mostly haze, a little diffusion, but I think the lenses gave us a little bit more natural texture than like I expected.
Yeah. I'll turn you on to something that Eric Messerschmidt turned me on to. and I've been testing it for like a few months now, and I actually think it's perfect. There's a DaVinci. Obviously, this would be if you color your own stuff. Maybe you could talk to a colorist about implementing it. But there's a DCTL called, or I guess it's a plugin, not a DCTL, but it's a plugin for DaVinci Resolve called Scatter.
Okay.
And it is and this might be in that whole, like what we were talking about earlier about like, what film are you emulating? But as far as I can tell, this is incredibly accurate diffusion emulation.
Oh, wow.
And you can set your focal length. Like if you know how diffusion reacts based on focal length and intensity, like you've got that just kind of mapped in your head, you can set those parameters in the plugin and it'll give you that amount. And the nice thing about that is you can key out parts that you don't want the diffusion to affect. So if, it's backlit, you can just knock that down.
Yeah. Yeah. So you clean, and then later you're adding in the diffusion. You're not putting anything in front of the glass.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And I now I put it on everything.
Okay.
And then, sometimes you don't want any, but I'll just go through it because it's got like every diffusion modeled in there. So, I want a Hollywood Black Magic now. It's emulating
a Black Pro Mist. It's emulating a Glimmer Glass. It can emulate exact. Wow.
This is so. I'm going to write an article on it. I've just been, instead of doing actual tests, I've been just using it on stuff because it looks nice. But I could never really afford to buy a Hollywood Black Magic.
They're expensive.
But now I've got it. Yeah. I like Glimmer Glass, but sometimes you want it down a little bit, especially like fog sometimes is really good, but you want it. It's so specific. Being able to A/B test and like audition stuff, once you've shot it, you can figure out what diffusion works best for the shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said he used it on The Killer.
Okay.
So yeah, I give that. It is a little pricey, but I think if,
Scatter, yeah?
Yep. Yeah, for Resolve.
Wrote it down. I'm gonna look into it.
Awesome. Well, I gotta hop on this other call, but it's fucking awesome talking to you, dude. Please stay in touch. And yeah, the movie was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for watching it. I'm happy you had a great experience with it, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast. I'm
of course, dude.
A big fan of it, and I feel honored to be sitting in this chair right now.
The honor is very much mine.
Okay, we're gonna do this back and forth. No,
I already did that before. Okay. So me and the last guy did the same thing. It's a big love fest. I really want to throw a party, like maybe like when season 5 launches. Good. Like see how many people I can just get into space. Just get all the DPs together.
I roll out.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I'll roll up.
Hell yeah, I'll figure it out. All right, take care, brother.
Bye. Thank you.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production. It's produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan, and distributed by Pro Video Coalition. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can do so on Patreon by going to frameandrefpod.com, where you can get all the episodes, and clicking the Patreon button. It's always appreciated, and as always, thanks for listening.